Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, the 10th of February, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to tell you guys what, we are in a situation where the central banks are pumping money out there, but they're only inflating this bubble tighter and tighter, and they can't let the bubble burst. It's an everything bubble. Bubble in real estate, bubble in stocks, it's bubble in Bitcoin, bubble in gold and silver, bubble in everything. They can't let it pop. If they let it pop, it'll completely pop, and the system will freeze. So, I mean, a total system-wide freeze, I don't think people realize what that entails. It entails basically the entire world's financial system, or all the money, locking up. Freezing. Be awful hard to get it unfreezed. And could they get it unfree? And this is what I mean. Way back in 2008, they had this problem. That's why they couldn't let it go down, because it's so over leveraged. See, in the Great Depression, they could let it. They let it clear out. They let it fall. Caused the Great Depression. Way back then. Now it's growing to a point where it wouldn't cause a Great Depression. Now, if they let it all clear out, if they just let it all mark to market and let it all just collapse. This is a global, debt-based Ponzi scheme. And today, guess what they're doing? They're going for U.S. Treasuries. They're considered to be the world's safest asset. You're investing in, basically, the United States is a big corporation. A corporation that's so far in the red, so far in debt, that it can never get itself out. And basically, it's a Ponzi scheme that has to collapse at a certain point. It does. And it's going to collapse in hyperinflation. And all the people who are bondholders, their value of those bonds is going to go to zero, just like the dollar. Worthless. Worthless paper. You know, and what they've done, the central banks have done things like they've sold their gold. Chinese bought it up. Now, this is not just right now, but over a period of time, they've sold gold to lower the gold price, to control gold. Chinese have bought it up, and where it's ended up is in paper again, into the U.S. Treasuries again. That's where the values ended up in the West, where the East has taken the gold, resmelted it into 1 kilogram size bars, and stacked it all away from themselves. You know, and what they've done is they've suppressed the price of gold and silver all these years, but they're finding it very difficult, if impossible, to suppress the price of Bitcoin. And so all of this confidence is slowly being eroded in these fiat currencies, because of fiat currencies are all basically just floating free. 1971, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, the United States dollar was pegged to gold, and all of the other fiat currencies were pegged to the United States dollar, and it was like kind of like a balloon. You know, say you had a hot air balloon, you had it tethered to the ground with a big rope. You know, Nixon snipped the rope, and now they're all just floating free up there in the stratosphere. And there's an old saying, what goes up comes down. And they'll all come down together, because they're all pegged together. They're pegged to nothing. And if that wasn't bad enough, the U.S. Treasury bond, that's what it is. It's just floating pegged to nothing on these fiat currencies. Honest to God, when the whole thing comes crashing down, the treasuries will come crashing down with it. And that's what they're buying into today. You need a solid, tangible asset that's controlled in the amount that can be created, but to back up the fiat currencies. Gold fits this bill, but so does Bitcoin. They've suppressed gold for so many years, kept the price down, and they still got their foot on top of it. Bitcoin's soaring to the heavens. Where do you think people's confidence is going to go? Not in the fiat currencies. Where can they buy? Where can they go? They can't go into the fiat currencies for real to have something stable backing it. And they can't, and gold's difficult to go into because they keep suppressing the price of it. So all of this confidence is slowly going toward Bitcoin. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter that Bitcoin just started in 2009. It doesn't matter that it was just a computer algorithm. It doesn't matter. Confidence is a very strange thing. And if you have confidence in something, if you have a lot of confidence in something, then that's what gives it value. It's our minds, our brains, that make money. We make money. When we first went on this planet, there was no money. We started using things like shells for money. And we use gold for money. We are the ones. It's our confidence in it that makes it value. And when you realize that the confidence is swinging toward cryptocurrencies, then you realize that hey, we are the ones that give it value because we say it has value. It has value. And the more confidence we give it, the more value it has. And this is exactly what's happening. And people, the confidence in the fiat currencies is being eroded. There's still confidence in gold and silver, but the price is being suppressed. Here we go. Let's get the chart started and let's open up the charts, Ray. This is Ray here, and take a look at what's going on. I'm going to take a look at the silver price today. And, you know, it just can't get its head above water for silver and gold because they just keep controlling the price with the paper contracts that are not real silver, but there's so many paper contracts out there, so much more than the real silver that exists that the paper is supposed to represent. It's the same old banking scheme, but in reverse, you know. The banking scheme is they don't have the money in the vault, your money. It's not there, guys, in vaults. That's just to impress you guys. That's how like those bank vaults they got there. A big door on them, you know, with that big lock and everything. It's all probably made in China. It might work, but it's like the whole thing is just like there for the reason to give you confidence that they got a lot of money there. They don't have any money hardly there. If you wanted to buy a new car, you went into the bank and told them you wanted to pay cash for the car, and you would clean out their vault just for the price of one car. They keep those little screens facing themselves. They don't want you to realize. They don't want you to see the screen with your bank account numbers on it and stuff because that'll give you the idea, hey, they don't have money. It's all digits. It's all digits on the screen, and they can just enter in as many numbers as they want. The banks can do the same thing as the central bank, except with a few little different rules. The rule is somebody has to come in and ask them for the money. In other words, you have to come in and you have to qualify for a loan from them, and then they just type the money into the computer screen. And that's all your money is keystrokes on a computer screen. It's no more real. The money out there, I think they call it fugazi or whatever. It's not real. And they've created so much of it they can't let the system now implode. Because if people pay off too much debt, they blow the whole Ponzi scheme. They got to keep expanding the monetary base. Now we've reached the exponential point. And there's no way out. There's only two ways this can end. One, they let it all pop. Would be horrific disaster. Or they keep going. And we keep boiling in, like the frog, boiling in the water very slowly. And it keeps getting worse and worse. Your dollar keeps buying less and less and less. And this is the way they're going to go. Because what politician is going to have the balls to get up there and say, hey, you know what? We're cutting it off. Here and now, we're cutting it off. The whole system would collapse. No, they're just going to keep printing. And every time the system starts to collapse some, and it will, I mean, the bubbles will start to burst. When the bubbles start to burst, they'll just rush in with a whole big bunch more money. And the more they let the bubbles burst, the more money they're going to dump in. And so what's going to happen is your dollar is just going to keep going down, faster and faster and faster, though. We got a stagflating economy. So we got stagflation out there. Massive amounts of it. It's going to keep getting worse, guys. Worse and worse. Your dollar is going to go down faster and faster and faster in the end. And the inflation is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because they can't stop it now at this point. And on the other side of that, we got gold, silver, and Bitcoin, the cryptos, deflating. They are deflating. It's the opposite. It means that what you can buy with them is going up higher and higher and higher. And I mean, in a situation like this, it's not going to end. It's not going to stop. More and more people are going to start to understand this. Like Elon Musk. He just bought a whole big swack of Bitcoin. Why do you think he's doing that? He's one of the smartest cookies out there. How do you think he get rich? He's smart. He's smart. He gets a little bit ahead of everybody else. And so, yeah, he's coming in. And how many more do you think are going to start to come in? And ultimately, when it gets to where it's going, you know, you're either going to have Bitcoin, gold or silver or cryptos, or you're not. And if you wait too long to buy in, you're going to buy in at such an exorbitantly high price that it's going to wipe out your bank account. You're going to have less than the guy that only had $1,000 to buy in with there a couple years ago. He's going to have the same amount of money as you, and you might have had $100,000 in the bank, way more than him. And now you have to buy in. You have to buy in, and you only get what he paid for $1,000 for. And it's going to work the same way for that guy that buys in. The guy that buys in at $100,000. You advance a little bit further into the scenario, and it's going to look cheap, and he's going to have a gut at it. This thing's not going to end. It's just going to keep going until the dollar is zero. That's the big crisis. When the dollar starts to really go down, that's when we experience Venezuela. And you want to know what it's going to be like? Take a look at what it was like for the people in Venezuela during their hyperinflation. Except this bigger, much bigger. It's the whole country, the whole United States, and the whole of Europe and Canada, everywhere. A worldwide hyperinflation. We've never been through anything like this before. We don't have a precedent for it. And I can't tell you exactly how bad it's going to be because we don't have a precedent. But we're heading right for it, and it's coming fast. And there's no way out other than to collapse the entire system and have a Mad Max type of scenario where everything just stops because everything runs on money. That's no way out. That's the only alternative. We're going to have to experience a worldwide hyperinflation. And yeah, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. If you've got the alternative assets, you'll still be able to eat. That's the difference. The people that don't have enough money to buy the food, they're just going to be sitting there, and it's going to be short supply of everything. You know, and prices going to be like, oh my gosh. Well, you already see it beginning. You see, you go to the store, you know, and you might not get the brand you wanted now. But if we take a look at Venezuela and what they went through, you realize how the stores end up in the end when you're in the middle of the hyperinflation is. They'll have limited products available. Like, they get a whole bunch of something in, like laundry detergent. You know, it's all one brand down the whole aisle. And you have to take that one brand. And you go down the next aisle where the meat is, and it's all chickens. Same thing happened in Russia during the fall of the former Soviet Union. You know, it seems like what they do is they keep the grocery stores stocked, but they're not stocked like they used to be. You know, when you have a wide variety of stuff, it's more like just enough to keep. And the prices, the prices. You know, seriously, guys, you might be paying $1,000 for a chicken this time in about maybe 18 months from now. And your wages are they're not going to keep up. So it's going to get a little bit harder all the time to constantly try to pay all the bills and try to keep food on the table, you know. And in the end, you have to make choices. Am I going to stay? I can't stay in my house and eat both. So you have to make hard choices, and this is where your gold and your silver is going to shine, because people who have the gold and the silver or cryptocurrencies, maybe they won't have to make quite such hard choices. In other words, what I'm trying to say is what these politicians have done to us is they've created a situation where before a rich man used to have a big house like in Beverly Hills, like a Liberace type mansion. That's what a rich man had, before. And the poor people out there, they had a smaller house. They might have had a house with one bathroom. They had to share the bathroom. That was the poor people, right? And the homeless people used to have generally a car to sleep in or. Now it's going to be the rich people have a car to sleep in. And gosh only knows what's going to happen to the poorer ones. That's the way it's heading. It's heading that way. It's heading that way fast. And your gold and your silver will afford you the lifestyle where you'll probably still be able to keep a roof over your head. Maybe you won't have as much money as you had back when you were, but you'll still have something. Where these other people who haven't put this stuff away from themselves, they don't have any hedge against inflation. It's just going to eat them to pieces, and they're going to end up having to go into some sort of an assistance. And there's going to be so many of them that the government will just have to shuffle them off to some sort of an area where they'll take them. I don't know. Maybe they'll put them in buses or something, and there'll be just so many of them. What'll happen to them? I don't know. But the thing is you don't want to. You want to be able to stay, have a roof over your head, and that's what your gold and silver is going to enable you to do. But the government is going to end up getting it all in the end, because they've made the country so poor in the end, you'll have to use your gold and your silver to support yourself. And in the end, what'll happen is all your gold and silver will be gone because you've been using it to keep up with, because of the inflation. They're sucking. This inflation is like a giant vacuum cleaner sucking us all up, and it's their Ponzi scheme. They did it. Nixon and his crew, and all the crew back in the back when they went out to that island, Jekyll Island. They did it to us all. They've taken all of our lives away from us and replaced it with this global debt-based Ponzi scheme. And now they're just going to keep it going. It's going to keep sucking until there's nothing left except exceedingly rich people who created the Ponzi scheme and who did it to all of us, and the people who can't even put two scraps of bread together. And so this is worse. This, back when we had the medieval times and they had waifs and serfs and lords, the peasants back then lived like kings compared to what we're going to live like under this global debt-based Ponzi scheme. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit carried away here, but it's so frustrating to watch America the way it was when we were all basically rich back in the 1980s and 1990s and even earlier, back in the 1970s, when just one person in your house had to work, and you could save money. The husband could go out to work and have a job, and his wife could enjoy her life and have all the money she needed for everything and save money from one salary. Then, and in the 1980s, she had to go out and get a job. Both of them had to work. Now that isn't even sufficient. They're working us to death, and they're sucking everything out of us with this global debt-based Ponzi scheme that they're running, so that the few can get exceedingly rich. What a plan they had. And it's working exceedingly well. They're getting away with it. And they're getting so rich. They're getting so fat. The juices are just coming down their chins. They can barely walk. They're so full of everything that we had. They have it all. And they got more than they could ever spend. But now they've created a situation where what they have is going to go to zero unless they do something about it. Because the end result is zero on everything. It'll even make them poor. So what are they doing? Well, look at Elon Musk out there. He's buying the Bitcoin so that he can get his cut of where the money is really going to go. Where all the value, I shouldn't say where the money's going to go, where all the value's going to go. What the money represented when the money dies. So we should call this episode When the Money Dies. That's what I'm going to call it, When the Money Dies. Anyway, 2704 for silver. Let's take a look at gold today. I know I was a bit long-winded, but I needed to get that out. $18.39 for gold, up $1.50. Cryptocurrency today. 1362. 1330. So she's dropping today. She does this. She's been doing this for a while now. Bitcoin roars on up there and sets a new high, and then it falls back. You know, it falls back for a week or two, and then you watch it'll roar back to life again, you know, and it's been doing that, you know. It's been doing that for months now. As it keeps charging higher. But we're looking at a Bitcoin price of $44,399. The stock market up today. Refresh the page. Down 67 points. 31,211. Crude oil, 58.18. It's staying fairly stable there. It's only 18 cents off, or 0.31%. Move index today. Today is 46.75 on the move index. Now, bonds and rates. We're looking at falling yields on the long end of the curve. And this is what I'm telling you guys. They're out there buying those bonds up. They're thinking deflation. Because they see the economy deflating right in front of them. They see stores closing everywhere. They see all kinds of businesses going under and everything else. And they're thinking, hey, I better get into a safe haven asset. I better get into the U.S. Treasury bonds. That's U.S. dollars. Buying into dollars. You know, I mean, because it's considered to be the world's safest asset. Buying into a corporation that's bankrupt. Totally bankrupt. Who can never pay off their debt. They just don't know where else to turn right now. They just can't believe in Bitcoin. I'm talking about the people who are buying into treasuries. You know, they can't believe in Bitcoin. And they just can't get their head around it, you know. And they will get their head around it in time. The most diehard, most staunch Bitcoin haters out there are slowly going to start shifting one by one as this progresses. Because at first it becomes unbelievable. They just can't believe it's actually happening. Later they start to slowly accept it. And in the end it wins. That's the way it goes, you know. Dollar index today, 90.37. Dollar's going along sideways. Yeah, guys, it's a really crazy world out there right now, you know, and I can't see it because it's a cliff. And Mr. Bean's not going to jump off the cliff. Okay, that's the politicians out there. It's suicide for them, political suicide, for them to really meaningfully stop printing dollars. And to be hard on these markets, and to let these markets and let everybody go bankrupt. It's the end of it. It would just, the whole system would lock up. So they can't do that. They can't go there. It's impossible to go there. Nobody's going to go there. Nobody's going to venture there. And the only alternative to that is to just keep it pumping it bigger and bigger and bigger. And how it's going to pop in the end, it's going to pop when the currency loses value. Increasingly faster and faster. And that's a mental thing. That's a thing where people hit a certain point where they just flip and they say, hey, you know what? The dollar's toast. They agree with everybody else. And that can spread really quickly. That can spread as quickly as a disease. And that confidence is suddenly gone. It can disappear in a matter of weeks. I can't tell you exact point that's going to happen, but when that happens, that's when you're going to see a meteoric rise in cryptocurrency, gold and silver. And their suppression isn't going to work anymore at that point. Because there'll be a mad rush. They're not going to be able to buy the gold and the silver. They'll clean it all out. The real physical. And buying SLV ain't going to help. Buying GLD is not going to help. And there's still going to be tons of this fiat out there. What do you do with it all? Well, it's all going to go into cryptocurrencies. It's the way I see it coming. How high could they take the stuff? Just as high as the purchasing power can go down on the fiats. So the fiats can go down to zero, and Bitcoin can go to infinity. Thank you guys for listening. Oh, and the thing is when it does go to infinity, how do you sell? Bitcoin has to become worth the value on its own. It means that you're going to get a slew of retailers and stuff because fiat's worthless at that point. They got to sell their merchandise. So they're all going to hop on board, and you'll be able to spend, when that time comes, you'll be able to spend your cryptocurrency anywhere. You won't be able to spend your dollars. They're going to, it'll all of a sudden flip to where they don't want the dollar. They'll want to, if you want to buy a new couch or whatever, we only take crypto. I know that's kind of turning it on its head, but things can change. That's the way with this world. Things change. And if you're ahead of that change, well, then you come out great, But not great, but better than the guy that's not ahead of it. Anyway, we'll catch you guys in the next show, and you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and push that notification bell. Bye-bye, guys.